Hello and welcome to the first module for Principle of Economy subject. I'm your instructor, Ahmad Fahmi bin Muhammad Ali. In this video, we're going to learn about supply. Okay, supply is the willingness and ability of producer to create goods and service to take them to market. Supply is possibly related to price, given that a higher price there is an incentive to supply more, as higher prices may generate increased revenue and profit. Supply is a fundamental economic concept that describes the total amount of a specific goods and service that is available to consumer. Supply can relate to the amount of available at a specific price or the amount available across a range of price if displayed on a graph. This relates closely to the demand for a goods of specific at a specific price, or LS being equal, the supply provided by producer will rise if the price rises because all firms looks to maximize profits. Okay, the supply curve is upward sloping because over time supplier can choose how much of their goods to produce and later bring to market. At any given point in time, however, the supply that seller bring to the market is fixed, and so sellers simply face a decision to either sell or withhold their stock from a sale. If consumer demand arise, the price will rise, and supplier can choose devoted to new resources to production, or new suppliers can enter the market, which increases the quantity supplied. When the price of a product is low, the supply is low. When the price of product is high, the supply is high. This makes sense because companies are seeking profit in the marketplace. They are more likely to produce product with a higher price and likelihood of producing profit than not. In this topic, the movement and shift in relation to supply represent very different market phenomena. Like movement along the market curve, the supply curve means that supply relations means consistent. Therefore, a movement along the curve will occur when price of a good change and the quantity supply changes by the original supply relationship. In other words, a movement across when a change in quantity supply is caused only by a change in price, and so on. Meanwhile, a shift in a demand or supply curve occurs when a goods quantity supply change even though the price remains the same. Like a shift in the demand, a shift in the supply curve implies that the original supply curve has changed, meaning that the quantity supply is impacted by a factor other than price. A shift in the curve would occur if, for instance, a natural disaster caused a mass shortage of hops and manufacturers would be forced to supply less goods for the same price. There are 5 factors that can shift the supply curve, which are: first, the price of resources. If the price of resources or raw material that being used to produce the good increases, the supplier must reduce or will reduce their production, since they will not make a high profit due to high price of resources. Thus, this will make the supply shift to the left. While if the price of resources reduce, the cost of producing the goods will be low and the producer will increase their production, since the cost is low and they manage to gain a higher profit. Second is the number of producer. Increase in number of supply will tend to increase the production of a certain goods. Thus, a high number of producer will result in increase in supply curve that will shift to the right, while if less production in the market, the supply curve will shift to the left and show that the supply is decreasing. Third is technology. When a firm discovers a new technology that allows it to produce at a lower cost, the supply curve will shift to the right. A technology improvement that reduces cost of production will shift supply to the right, causing a greater quantity to be produced at any given price. Fourth is the tax and subsidies. Government policies can affect the cost of production and the supply curve through tax, regulation, and subsidy. Tax are treated as cost by business. Higher cost decreases supply for the reason discussed. A government subsidy, on the other hand, is an opposite of a tax. A subsidy occurs when the government pays to a firm or give a payment directly to the firm to reduce the firm tax if the firm carries out a certain action. From the firm perspective, tax and regulation are an additional cost of producing that shift supply to the left, leading the firm to produce a lower quantity at a given price. Government subsidy, however, reduce the cost of production and increase the price at the given price, shifting the supply curve to the right. Lastly, the future expectation. Expectation about the future price or expectation about the price resources, tax increase or decrease, tax in subsidies, taste and preferences, income, and so on can affect the supply. For example, if a news telling that the price of oil will increase in the next month, producer may tend to increase the production in the current month because they don't want to produce more on the next months because the cost of producing will get higher. All of these factors shift in supply happens when a change in some economic factors causes a different quantity to supply at every price. Okay, that's all. Thank you for joining this class. See you in the next topics.